The sixth of the reporting themes is terrestrial environment, abbreviated to land. This is a picture of annual soil loss. Again, red is bad, and you can see that there are some significant soil losses occurring, particularly across northern Australia. The seventh reporting theme is natural and cultural heritage. And here's a striking chart from the 2001 report of the number of households, the proportion of households in which Indigenous Australian languages are used in the household. And you can see that in all age categories represented in that chart, between 1986 in the blue, 1996 in the red, that the usage of Indigenous languages decreased. And I'm sure you'd be aware of many of the cultural consequences of that loss of cultural heritage associated with Indigenous language. So, that's my quick tour through the state of Australia's environment. I haven't covered the Antarctica theme. You can pursue that in the State of Environment Report 2006 if you want to. I want to wrap up by talking about some of the ways in which people are thinking about responding to this. In some ways, this course, perhaps the degrees that you're doing here, are about the response to these challenges, and your professional careers will be about those responses. So this is just a few closing thoughts. The issue of broader indicators of sustainability was mentioned earlier, and one of those is called the Genuine Progress Indicator, which is an indicator that seeks to be more sophisticated than just measuring gross domestic product, the measures of economic well-being that are usually used. Clive Hamilton from the was director of the Australian Institute, pioneered the use of this indicator in Australia, and what you can see from this chart is that gross domestic product increased substantially, trying to look like it doubled essentially between 1950 and 2000. But if we take a broader, more sophisticated measure of well-being, which is the line in green, it changed actually very little over that 50-year period. There's a website which I've given you here, which explains the background of this indicator and allows you to look at databases and other information about sustainability. So if you're interested in this sort of information reporting, have a look at that website. Of course, information is only useful if we act on it, and a number of you in your responses to my first question talked about how individual behaviour in relation to sustainability wasn't really changing, how people might be more aware of the challenges of sustainability, but we're not changing our behaviour because of it. So one challenge is communicating that information in ways which change individuals' behaviours. A second is what governments choose to do through policy measures that help encourage or require that change. So there's a couple of quotes here from the State of Environment Report 2006 and 2001 that talk about the individual responsibilities that we have and the connection between individual awareness and political action, because our political leaders respond sometimes a bit of a time late to the electorate. So there's a strong connection between our individual attitudes and what we give priority to politically and what our political system responds to. The point I want to make at the end of this talk, before I move on to suggest some further reading, is that the programs that we offer in the school are really designed to help you think about ways that not just you can change your own life individually, but ways in which you can influence the policy process, in which you can be a more effective member of society to work towards a more sustainable world. Because of CSIRO said in commentary on those ABS statistics, lots of talk is cheap, what we need is action, and action comes from ourselves. So, I'll conclude with a couple of suggestions about where you might go to access information relevant to the ideas I've been talking about. I've mentioned the State of Environment Reporting. I'd strongly suggest to those of you who are not doing SRES1004, because you've already been asked to do this, but I strongly suggest those of you who haven't download and read Chapter 2 from the 1996 State of Environment Report. It's a chapter called Portrait of Australia, and it's the single best overview of the state of Australia's environment in a broad sense that I think you can find. Giving you a couple of other sites here. Professor Ian Lowe, who's President of the Australian Conservation Foundation, an interesting radio talk on sustainability, the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment, the global overview, and a series of papers commissioned by the ACF on sustainability that are quite worthwhile reading. Here's another set of websites designed to appeal to every taste. Okay, if you're interested in sustainability in an educational context, have a look at the first site, which is hosted by Macquarie University, who lead a consortium of Australian universities work on sustainability. If you're interested in what students and essentially young people and professionals are doing, have a look at the Natural Edge project, which is led by an affiliate and a former student of ANU, Mike Smith. If you're into travel, the Lonely Planet Rough Guide series, have a look at the Rough Guide to a Better World and what you can do about that. And if you are interested in the natural environment and its connection to community, you'd be aware, I hope, of a man called Rick Farley, who was instrumental in establishing land care in Australia. He died tragically about 18 months ago, and there's a lecture series in his honour. I'm giving you the website for that because I think that there's another set of quite inspirational lectures on that site that you might be interested to hear. And of course, there's a range of things that you can do on campus. I think this is the topic of tomorrow's panel, so I won't dwell on this, but there's a number of ways in which you can engage very directly with sustainability on and around the ANU campus and the Canberra community, and I've listed those, some of those starting points there for you. That's it from me. Happy to talk offline, but I need to give Richard the last couple of minutes, I think.
Thanks, Peter. As you can hopefully see, there's a lot of connections between what Peter's been saying and your essay question, which hopefully you're all focusing on. If I have time, I'll just say a bit more about the essay question, but just before that, just a couple of reminders that we have the student representative meeting today, so could I ask your representatives just to stand up? I know that Natalie's one. Rob, yep. Fiona, Will, and Megan. Yep. Okay, so all their email addresses are also up on the contacting staff page. So on the front of the web page, go to contacting staff. That meeting's at 1 o'clock, so you need to send them directly after this lecture or send them an email very quickly. And the idea is that if you're having any problems or issues with the course or you want to give any positive feedback, pass it on to them and they can relay it anonymously at that meeting. As I sent everybody an email on Friday, that we've increased the word limit. People said they're having trouble keeping to the word limit for the learning portfolio, but bear in mind we're encouraging you to be brief, and there is a criteria there of being succinct. So we're not looking for long essays, we are looking for brief reflections. And if you haven't got an email from me, it probably means you're not checking your ANU email addresses. So people at ANU are going to be assuming that you regularly check your ANU email. So I think a few people aren't checking emails, judging on some of the questions, and some fellow students I know are having trouble contacting other students as part of the National University of Singapore collaboration. So that's not going to work unless you do check your ANU email, so please all do that.